Mine as well. We're good.
All right. Hello, everyone. Here at NAMM 2019, the Leapwing booth. We have today with us Seth Drake, dear friend. He's a mastering engineer, currently in San Francisco area, and he's worked with amazing artists, Bass Nectar, Ellie Goulding, Gucci Man, many more. And we're here today to talk to him about how he uses our plugins, and he's been a very valuable beta tester and just throwing ideas out there and helping us out a lot. So thanks a lot for that.
Yeah, anytime, man.
So maybe first question, because you are actually one of the users that use all of our plugins, so we can kind of talk about each one. Let's maybe start with CenterOne. What are your current applications? Like, how do you mostly use it in your setup?
CenterOne for me, I really appreciate it on vocals. I like to get the vocals nice and wide sometimes, especially like harmonies and like layers and stuff like that. A bit closer, like this. There you go. Like this. I like to use it. I like to use it on vocals. I like to get the vocals really wide. And a lot of the times in the process of getting the vocals really wide, you get that like lack of center image. It's a lack of definition. And there's a couple ways, as you know, like through mix techniques to kind of get that up into the front. But nothing does it quite as good as CenterOne does. And the maths in CenterOne, as well as the filtering, really allow you to kind of find what frequency range of that vocal you want pushed forward. Because a lot of the times in the mono band, as you're exciting stuff, you'll get harsh frequencies in there. And you can really dial that in to curtail, like, oh, do we need some more depth, like a Travis Scott thing? Do we need some more brightness, like a Lil Wayne thing? Like, where do we want that center image to kind of come through? Like, where is the vocal fundamental? Like, are we dealing with like a low vocal? Are we dealing with a high vocal? So that ability, and then even the fact that you can quickly swap between listening to the center image itself or what you're hearing on the sides. It's so fast. It's just like boom, like get the vocal nice and wide, get it nice and lush, maybe even chorusy so it's moving around a little bit, and then CenterOne at the very end to just shove it right back up into the middle. And yeah, it's super easy, man. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Cool. Well, let's move on to the next one, and we can just keep talking. How about Dyn One? How is that currently in your flow? It's a beast.
Yeah, it's a beast. Dyn One, I have it in the mastering chain, generally right at the start. A lot of the times we'll get stuff in. It's live content. It needs to go out for shows. It's got some frequency range problems, dynamic range problems, but a lot of the times it's in the low end or it's in the low mids. And Dyn One's got the filter set up basically where it's automatic. It's almost you just like shove them up into the compression, into the thresholds, and then just bring it back down again, and mix right back out. The multiband itself, it sounds better than pretty much any other multiband I'm using. I've shot it out against the System 6000. Of course the Fab Filter stuff, the Flux, Alchemist, none of them have the maths on those curves. And especially with the top end, one of the things that I really love to do, especially early in the mastering stage, is get some of that air back. Especially if the mix is a little rolled or a little dark, you can really just take those last few faders and just slide them right up and just listen for that, like where the texture is and where the air is. And you get that early in the chain as opposed to late. And then in that way, I'm not like trying to fight all this downward compression that I've got, trying to shove up these reverbs or whatever. I've got that air right away. Yeah, so it's really awesome.
Cool. Yeah, very awesome. I don't know what else to say.
I love all your stuff.
Awesome.
Big fan.
And then the latest one, StageOne, you just started using, so
yeah.
How about that?
StageOne's a lot of fun. It's like I've been rinsing the crap out of this. Okay, so width on everything, just basically like this would be, I've been using it in a mix bus scenario so far. I love the width, especially like a little bit of depth, just like, and then the ability to filter the width. We even talked about like the cutoffs on there and getting that a little bit tighter, because especially with the music that I do, there's a lot of like what would be considered wide lows, which is a little weird when you think about it. You're like, most of the time there's not stereo low end, but I deal a lot in stereo low end. So having something where you can get really tight but also really low in frequency allows me to widen the parts that I need without the parts that I don't. 'Cause we're playing with only a few hertz down there in the crossovers where what would be considered like sub-wide or would be considered like bass-wide. So generally between maybe 50 and 60 hertz, it goes from being almost pseudo-stereo to mono. And in that regard, having that ability to tighten that up down there and then to still add width to the top end is huge. And I don't know what this is doing, but like, there's this shimmer that happens. It's weird. Like, I seriously suggest it. Like, anybody that's like, I don't know, I'd be like, just put that on everything and listen to what it does, because it's just better. It adds this like texture to the top. I can't really describe it better than that. You're like, you gotta listen to there's this something in there, man. It's rad. And then the depth, of course, like if you need something that is to push it a little bit forward, I haven't had too many uses for depth yet, but I'm really excited to actually try that on some of these like trap sounds, just like as in like an effect way, like all the way up to 100, and then maybe gate it afterwards, just like go full depth, just to get these like room tones out of the sounds. But the mono spread back to the vocals, this is so. You know, on like a mix bus, it's been like width all day, maybe a little bit of depth, and then not really mono spread. Although there was with the New Year's Eve show that we just did over at Hampton Coliseum for Bass Nectar, there was a bunch of tracks that came through for mastering that needed mono. They were basically dead down the middle, like old drum and bass tracks or whatever. And this in a split band mode, so like literally like breaking off the signal into like a high and a low band. So I'd leave the low in mono, and I'd run the mono spread on the top band, which is like a stereo mix. Like, you shouldn't do this, but it totally worked, and it's mono compatible, and it didn't destroy the transients, which was rad. So it saved my ass in a couple different instances when all we had was these like old drum and bass tracks, and like we had to get them up, but they're not competing with these like festival trap songs that are just like bonkers wide. So in that regard, like the mono spread totally helped, and then again width on the end, and then yeah, just normal mastering process. So this has been like, I'm in love with this one for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks again. It's awesome. Do we have any questions from the audience? Maybe to ask. Want to ask?
I'm a bit blown away already. I'm a bit blown away already by your answers, and I think they're inspiring to see how you use these plugins. Like, I see ways I want to try out now.
Yeah, you should really.
The positive vibes you throw are great.
Thanks. I love this stuff. Yeah, these guys have been working at this stuff for years, right? You guys have been at this for many, many years. 3 years, yeah. How long before that were you in development? Like,
no, that's actually 3 years ago is when we really started developing. I mean, we had ideas before it, but yeah, I think everything is started about 3 years ago now. Yeah, a bit longer than 3 years. But yeah, it's been.
You started with the Dyn One, right?
That was the first idea, but we actually finished CenterOne before we finished Dyn One. Yeah.
How did that happen?
Well, I don't know. It was just kind of development time, and it just synced up, and it just it ended. Because Dyn One, I mean, there's a lot of processes and a lot of testing, because all the parameters they all interlink. So weighting, detection, it's a very complex process to interlink and test. So that whole process. Also the optimization, CPU-wise, we wanted to get as low as possible. I think we spent more than 6 months just like squeezing everything out of it.
All the math out.
Yeah, just like whatever you can optimize. Yeah.
So when CenterOne came up, like, are you working on these things in, like, is the process like that you're trying to solve a problem in mastering or in engineering, or and in like how do these ideas come up?
Yes, pretty much always it comes from either something we're doing and we're not quite happy with, and then we say like, we always try to do this but we can't, and that's actually how all our problems start. Is we use this every day, so we kind of look at what can we do yet, and we're also very fortunate because we work with a lot of students, and you see people using different stuff, so you pick up a lot of things. And of course we talk with many people in the industry and just notice what isn't working. And then we have multiple projects, I guess, in R&D, and then we see whatever something is right, because you might have a problem, but you don't necessarily have a solution yet. So that might take longer, and yeah, we just keep working at it and see when but we will never release something until we're like 100% happy. So
that's what I like about it. Yeah, it does. It always works. Yeah, I was really curious about that, because I didn't know how you guys generate these concepts. If it's just what bubbles up to the surface. in the kind of R&D. That's cool. Yeah, that's cool. Do you want to talk about what else you have going on? Good. No.
No, to be honest, we don't have anything going on at the moment. We actually spend a lot of blood, sweat, and tears on StageOne, and that's just out. Now we're here, busy times. So now we gotta take it a bit easy.
I need a break.
Yeah. No, we'll keep working hard and like keep seeing ways of improving this. Like especially like just keep working at it and making stuff better, hopefully.
Yeah.
And just keep going.
It's been really inspiring watching you guys grow from just a couple little things, and then the feedback that you got from Dyn One or whatever, and then you release Center and that. I mean, I've been with vocals on CenterOne. That's a lot of fun, but I've even been using it again in mixed scenarios. So if you use this to get things too wide, use CenterOne to get it back into the middle again. So, and especially like dial it back to the frequency bands that are on that. Really being able to dial in that like where the snare punches, where the kick punches, you can get a lot of that transient response and leave the synths and leave all the pads and the vocals really wide because they don't have that body down there around 150, 200 or whatever. You can just really push that up. So, yeah, I mean, I'm excited, man. This is cool.
I have one more question. Like, what would be your most creative use of one of the plugins that you didn't think about before? Like, you tried it and it just did something you weren't expecting. Has that ever happened?
Yes. Okay, I have two that I really want. Well, I have one that I want to do with Dyn One, which I haven't done yet. Which is basically resampling the higher bands, soloing the higher bands and resampling those with the really good maths and then pitching them back down again. So getting really high frequency stuff to click down into the lows or low stuff to click down into the highs. That one's maybe not as cool. When I was beta testing this one, I was running it inverted with itself to try and hear the effect. So one out of phase with the one that's running. And in that regard, you can hear a lot of really cool results with the mono spread and the depth. It's just this weird ghost zone, airy stuff that I'm like, that would be really awesome to like bring. It's just like sense into that, or like even drums, just like weird squishy drums. You can then like resample, bring it to like beats mode and like chop up. Yeah, so that's my plan for that one when I get home.
Nice one. All right. Let's see if we have more questions. No? Well, awesome. Well, thanks for stopping by and being here today with us. Really appreciate it. Awesome, man.